box.
Hello and welcome to Con Air, the podcast. I am Mark, looks like cocaine Hoffmeyer.
And I am Jay, little mind changer Cluett, welcoming you aboard Con Air Chapter 12. What happens in Con Air Chapter 12? Well, in the Federal Correctional Institution in Vacayville, California, guards Renfro and Garner inspect cell D8, recently vacated by Cyrus Grissom. Back on the jailbird, Poe is in line to be gagged and bagged with the other convicts disembarking at Carson City. Realizing this jeopardizes his plan, he changes his mind and opts to stay, lying that he still has 15 years to serve. So Cyrus tells him to pick a guard instead. Billy selects Falzon, from whom Poe retrieves his daughter's photo, before finding the audio recorder still running on Sim's corpse. Meanwhile, back in Cyrus' cell, a hidden compartment has been discovered. Mark, we need someone to help us dissect this chapter. We need a Cage fan. Lots of good Cage stuff in this chapter. Who's joining us for chapter 12?
Well, I'm really excited because joining us is someone who has forgotten more about Nick Cage movies than most people actually know. It's a wonderful podcaster, Joey Lewandowski, so thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting to be here as a longtime fan of this podcast for the past 8 or 9 weeks or 10 weeks or however many weeks it's been. I am thrilled to be here.
It made me so happy that your reaction to the Paddington and Paddington 2 and Ernest Goes to Jail reaction. I like that you like that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. I think I got into another sort of not heated debate, but people are like, I don't understand why Paddington, because I think, as we're recording this, not to put a time and date on it, but there is a royal just passed away. And so as that has happened, a lot of people have been passing around Paddington memes on Twitter, and people have been asking, why is Paddington 2 have a 99% of Rotten Tomatoes? What makes this the best movie of all time? And so I've had to explain to people, and it's not an easy sell. It should be an easy sell. I genuinely think it is a perfect film with no fat on it whatsoever, but it's a hard sell. People are like, it's a kid's movie. So anytime, Mark, that you're able to, or anyone's able to, elevate the discourse around Paddington 2 by comparing to another film such as Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Goes to Prison?
Ernest Goes to Jail.
Ernest Goes to Jail. Yeah. Less severe. He did not go to prison, just went to jail. I love it. I'm all on board.
See, my question is, why is it only 99% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Because it had 100, and then one person was just like, fool. No,
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Someone.
And what's crazy is people don't understand that a movie can get nothing but B's on Rotten Tomatoes and have 100% score. So when people see 100%, they're like, oh, it's not a 100% movie. They're like, no, 100% or 99% of critics gave it at least a B-.
Everyone thought it was fine.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's just 100% of critics or 99% of critics thought it was pretty good. That's how you keep the score. And there's nothing really objectionable about it. It's wonderful.
And I'm not the biggest fan of Rotten Tomatoes. I know you are very closely affiliated with them, Mark, so I don't want to badmouth them. But what I found is the types of movies that I find most interesting on Rotten Tomatoes are the ones close to 50%, because it's like there's no consensus. It's like these are movies that are either loved or hated, and no one's really clear on where they sort of wind up. And I feel like a lot of the things that I really like, and I would imagine a lot of things that you really like too, are in that middle ground where it's like, yeah, everybody says this is good, that's boring. Everybody says this is bad, that's boring. But it's like the middle ground where it's like, I don't know what to make of this. Judge it for yourself, where I find the most interest.
Deep Blue Sea just hit 60%. Con Air.
Congratulations, you are fresh now.
Yeah. Six is so happy. Con Air, 57%. So yeah,
still not fresh.
Yeah, exactly. Like these movies, it's like, or the Tomorrow. I really like the Tomorrow War, but that's a 50% movie. People either love it or hate it. So yeah, I love that sort of area in there. I mean, because it means it's quite divisive then. Like it's like I kind of like it, I kind of don't. Yeah, I'm actually more interested in the cinema score. Like I love that Mother got an F cinema score. It just makes me so happy watching that movie and realizing that people left it just giving it an F. It makes me happy. I like that.
I feel like when I saw that in theaters, I was the only person having a good time.
Because you got it, right? You got the tone. Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So during this film, where was Jacob Toretto?
So Jacob Toretto, so this is 1996, so he would have been chased off. Okay, so here's the real issue. And we just did our episode for F9 for Lap 11, so it's fresh in my brain. But there's the discrepancy that, okay, so the first Fast and Furious movie comes out in 2001. I think in the fourth one, in Fast and Furious, everything is retconned, that everything gets bumped up 3 years. We see that based on Letty's fake tombstone, because Letty, spoiler, not actually dead. But then in F9, they do this flashback, which is amazing, to like young Dom, young Jacob, when their father dies, but it's set in 1989, even though it should be 1999. And I don't know why. I've gotten no answers on this. So either in 1996, 1997, mid to late 90s, Jacob is either 25, which feels wrong, or like 15, which feels right. So if he's 15 in our version, the Too Fast, Too Forever version, he's like working with Buddy at the Toretto's garage. If he's 25, if he's been excommunicated already, he's probably working for Mr. Nobody somewhere.
Oh, that's a really great answer.
Thank you.
I remember when you asked me on the Too Fast, Too Forever podcast the first time I was on, I gave a horrible answer about him working in a tuna shop or making protein shakes.
That's a perfect answer. That's a perfect answer. That's what we're looking for.
Like he's making protein shakes. That was my guess. That wasn't. And we also
there's no wrong. Like we like to ask questions that there's no wrong answers to, because it just rewards creative thinking. And I'd rather have your answer than mine any day of the week.
And we also talked a lot about candles.
Of all your opening questions on the show, Mark, I'm annoyed I didn't predict that one. I should have seen that coming, and I'm frustrated that I didn't see that coming.
Well, if you're so I've been a guest on the Too Fast, Too Forever podcast a couple times. We talked Too Fast, Too Furious, and then we talked Four Brothers, which 2 + 2 = 4. Hey, I love both movies. Great back punches. So whenever you're a guest on that, you always get some really excellent questions that you kind of get put on the spot. And I love it. It's like you gotta be quick on y'all's show, because you and Joey too you guys are whip smart. So I love being on there and riffing with you guys. I feel like you guys.
It's one of those things where I just think about it too much. Like I think about the show when I'm not doing it. I've had dreams about. I had a dream recently about seeing the trailer for Fast 10. Not that we were in the movie, not that we saw the movie, but that I woke up and came downstairs and saw the trailer that was posted, and I was like, Joe, we gotta record an episode. So like in my dream, I was giving myself work because I found a new trailer online. So like it's that level of like literally incepted into my mind. I can't stop thinking about these.
Oh, see, I wish I had those dreams. I watched that movie Barbarian the other night, and I laid in bed for 2 hours. I don't want to get anything away, but I just laid there in dread, in fear. I would rather have a Fast 10 your seatbelts dream than I'm telling y'all, watch Barbarian. I'm
gonna see Barbarian tomorrow morning, so I will let you know as soon as I'm out of the theater. You'll be the first person to know what I think.
And don't watch it at night, y'all. Like, I just went home and I just stared at the ceiling, going, "What am I doing?" Like, yeah, I can't think of the last time a movie shook me up like that. I don't know. Ernest Scared Stupid, maybe. In 91, that changed my world. Hey, and I have another question for you, Joey. Okay, so we have the Fast and Furious villains.
Yes.
All of them.
And a lot of them.
And you have to replace them. You have to replace the Con Air villains with villains from the Fast and Furious world. So you're taking, Johnny Tran, you're taking Jacob Toretto or Deckard Shaw or Cypher, and you are putting them on the Con Air plane to play the roles. Do you have a lineup?
I think the thing that immediately comes to my mind is I think Cypher as Cyrus the Virus. Not only are their names similar, but I think that it's the calculating, cold, does not care about human life sort of thing.
That's perfect. Yep.
Do you guys want? I bet you guys can guess who I have as. I'm pretty certain I can. Like, who do you think I have playing Cyrus the Virus? As
you have Cole Hauser playing every single character.
Yes.
It's a plane full of Cardaverons, nothing but.
And Cole Meany, like they have very similar names. I know Cole Meany's not playing a villain, but maybe who is a villain when you're rooting for the convicts?
Yeah, he's the bad good guy.
Yeah, Cole Meany's a bad good guy. He's definitely on the antagonist list. The antagonist.
I just want Carter Verone in his Miami shirts. I'll only have Carter Verone as Cyrus the Virus if he has a shirt on board that he can change into and look like he's in like loafers, nice slacks, nice shirt, buttons, too few buttons are buttoned, and then he plays Cyrus the Virus like that. I'll do that. That sounds good to me.
In watching this chapter, I was struck by the visual similarities between Billy Bedlam and Vince. And I know Vince is not a villain, but he's kind of an anti-hero side character sort of thing. But I looked up his name before. I don't remember what his name is. But the guy who plays Billy Bedlam, Nick Chinland,
yeah,
gives that kind of Vince vibe, I think.
Ooh. Kind of like, you just don't trust him no matter whether he's good or bad.
Well, we've talked about this a lot on Too Fast because, like, the first movie you're watching from Brian's perspective, and he's a cop, but he's like, we're falling in love with his family, but he's trying to take them down. And so Vince is a villain because we're seeing through Brian's eyes, and he's not only going after Brian because Brian's going after Mia, but also, like, Dom, he's a cop. So, like, if you're watching purely from the family's perspective, Vince is the only one really defending them. So he's not a villain, but we see him as like this like antagonist. And ultimately he's not, he reforms and he helps them out in Rio, but he's got that kind of questionable, I don't know if I should trust him kind of look and feel.
Whoa.
See, I was thinking Statham for Billy Bedlam.
Also works.
Just because they got the same kind of voice. Same kind of growl. Different accents completely. But I can just see Statham do it, like having a crouch fight. With Are we keeping it as Cage? Or are we subbing Cage out for
No, we need to
Lucas
swap
Black?
the heroes. We need to switch.
Just to keep the same accent.
He's not Brian, but Lucas Black definitely fits a little bit better.
Whoa.
But Lucas Black with a mullet, of course. Lucas Black with a mullet.
I couldn't be happier. Now I want Dwight Yoakam and Billy Bob Thornton on here.
Oh, Dwight Yoakam. Yes.
Go with Sling Blade. I know we're going way. But can I pitch something to you guys? What about Cypher as the Marietta Mangler?
I was thinking Jaimin Hanzu for the Going Green role.
Oh, the forgotten forgotten Fast and Furious villain.
Just because it's justice for Jaimin Hanzu because he's fantastic in everything, but he's in nothing enough. And Garland Green, behind the scenes of the podcast, every time we ask someone, do you want to be on the podcast? They're like, yes, Steve Buscemi chapter, please. Every single person's like, Steve Buscemi, please. And you'll notice he's not in the film yet. So everyone we had so far has been unfulfilled in that request. And I just want Jaimin Hanzu to be the standout character of a film, finally.
Whoa.
I think in terms of affectation, I was thinking Otto, again, not really a villain, but the antagonist in F9 is sort of that weaselly, has power but doesn't really seem to exhibit it kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
I don't like that, though. I'd rather have Djimon Hounsou stand out because, that's the movie where, like, he's the villain, but it's all, you only think about Shaw versus Dom, right? So, like, it's...
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like that. That's mic drop casting right there. I like that one. Because, listen, y'all, Never Back Down, excellent movie. I'm telling y'all, Cam Gigante, great villain. Jaimin Hunsu's an MMA coach. Watch it. It'll change your life. Just letting y'all know. Watch it.
You know who I would cast? I would cast, the only other thing that I can think of, and I don't know that he's in this scene. I don't think we've seen MC Gainey. I think he's probably flying the plane by this point.
He's not on the plane at this point.
He's not on the plane by this point.
We meet him next week, I think.
Okay, very exciting. Because there's a couple episodes that you guys have recorded that I have not heard, that are not out yet, so I'm not sure where things place out. So I apologize.
No worries. Hey, it's
to
fine.
The listener, not to you, to the listener. I don't want to jeopardize my own status here, but I think the guy from Game of Thrones, the redheaded guy from Game of Thrones, who's like Cypher's right-hand man, I think could fit that sort of MC Gainey kind of like, you can mostly trust him, but he's not exactly a good guy kind of role.
Ooh, and you can believe him being around at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, Christopher Hivju is his name, and yes, he is just spot on casting for Swamp Thing. Absolutely perfect. Couldn't do it better. The only other guy I was thinking of for anyone is John Ortiz, because I love John Ortiz and everything. I would like to see him as Johnny 23. Just because I think he'd do it quite well.
Hey, I went Johnny Tran. We have two Johnnies going up for Johnny 23. I like it.
Yes. Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. Because he's a great character actor who can do anything, and I feel like he could fit into that role. That's all. I just wanted to make sure that he's in this film somewhere, because he's another one of those forgotten Fast and Furious villains, I think, because he's maybe not a great villain, a better actor than a villain, perhaps. I love that we have Joey on, who has a Nick Cage podcast. A podcast dedicated to Nick Cage films, and yet we're talking about Fast and Furious films, which, yes, he also has a podcast dedicated to that as well. But Nick Cage is in this film, and we've chosen a different podcast to refine.
Well, so like the Nick Cage one is active, but not really active. Like that was the one that we really started, and like the network is named after the Cage Club podcast network at cageclub.me, and we started because 7 years ago, Best Buy had a deal of the day where it was all Nick Cage movies on Blu-ray and DVD, and so I spent like $100 on 12 movies,
Wow.
and I posted a picture on Facebook, and I was just like, look what I just did. And my friend Mike was like, hey, I'm gonna do that too. We should like write a blog or something about this. I was like, wait a minute, let's do a podcast. And so he and I, for some reason, some ill-advised reason, did 3 episodes a week for 6 months, and we burned through. It's entirely too many. We were watching and recording and editing and doing written reviews too of every single Nicolas Cage movie, and it carried us from like August of 2015 into like early 2016. And I think there were like 72 or so movies by that point. I mean, now he's over 100, but we then followed up with Keanu and a whole bunch of other podcasts. We have like 33 shows now on the network, including Shoot Fast. But we watched all the Cage movies and we're like, we love his movies so much. What can we do? And so we did live in-person commentaries, like rewatches and commentaries of about 50 of his movies. And then we just stopped doing that because I'm like, this is we would get together and we would just start talking about like Marvel movies or whatever. Like we wouldn't even be paying attention to what's on screen. So we're like, who is this for? So we've moved on to other projects. But like now the Cage Club, the podcast exists, but only when he puts out a new movie. And so it's active but not really active, but too fast. And that's the one that's how we met Mark, what we know Mark through, and why I'm here basically today is through Too Fast, Too Forever, which still releases weekly because even though there's only 10 of those movies, we watch them on repeat forever and cut in other things in between. So I was born and bred Cage, and he's always going to be part of me. But right now, actively, the movie podcast that especially that Mark knows us through is Too Fast.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yes. I wasn't questioning it. I just found it funny.
Oh no, it's definitely funny. I was trying to explain because it doesn't make any sense, but also kind of makes perfect sense.
Can I pitch something? I just want to pitch a couple casting things here. What about Tony Jaa as Swamp Thing?
Sure.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
And then what about Takashi, the Drift King, as Billy Bedlam from Tokyo Drift? Would he be good?
I've been trying to figure out who plays Diamond Dog. Like, I think all your casting options are great, but I don't know who you replace Ving Rhames with.
Yeah.
We've not got many villains left. Like, what's his name? Luke Evans?
The truck driver from
Welsh
Fast 4.
Dog. Or Rick Yoon.
Maybe it's Momoa. Maybe it's Momoa's unnamed villain in Fast 10.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're thinking about it, Dwayne Johnson's technically a villain in Fast 5 for a bit. So do we want to chuck him in for Diamond Dog?
Oh. I don't know. He would take the franchise over.
I almost think Braga is the right fit there because he's got that wild card, you're intimidated just by looking at him kind of thing. But I also do love him as, who did we cast him as
2023.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've still got Reyes from Fast 5 isn't cast yet. Joaquin de Almeida.
Oh, Sandino,
and,
right?
And Rick Yoon we haven't cast yet either.
Rick Yoon might be able to fit the Diamond Dog role because he's got that stare. Like when he and Dom go face to face, like that's intimidating.
Yeah. Whoa, I like that.
Yeah. And
he's good on a motorcycle.
And we could, I mean, we could put Luke Evans in as the Cole Meany character, who I'm going to cast as a villain just for the sake of it, because Welsh, Irish, what's the difference?
Sure. And Cusack stays, right? Cusack's still in the picture?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or we could replace him with one of the good guys from, he could be...
Paul Walker. He has Converse instead of sandals.
There we go.
So no more culottes? Cusack and Converse?
I mean, he could still wear culottes.
Yeah, Dickies don't work as culottes. If Paul Walker falls off a cliff, his Dickies are not gonna, or if Brian falls off a cliff, his Dickies are not gonna keep him afloat like Barb and Star. It's culottes. So we do run that risk. But I don't know. Oh wait. What's Oh, she's the cop from 5 who gets horribly murdered in 8.
Oh,
Elena.
Yeah.
Can we give her a good role where she lives and it's not totally wasted to get Dom his child back and get her out of the way so he can be with
Bishop.
Letty?
Yeah, she could be Bishop. I could see that.
Oh.
Because if we're having Brian be the... No. I was saying, if we're having Brian be the Cusack character, but then that would make... I can't remember who plays Brian's wife in the films.
Jordana Brewster, Mia.
Thank you. Yes, then she could play like Ginny, perhaps, because they're always together. And I don't think does Luke Evans have a love interest? I've only seen Tokyo Drift once.
No, he's got like a woman in his gang that I guess you could maybe extrapolate that they're maybe together to some extent, like the female Brian, the one that Roman's like, oh look, they when'd you get your hair done or whatever. But there's no he's even forgotten Hobbs and Shaw, like a movie with his character's last name. He's only in flashbacks, so he's got nothing.
Well then let's make so I keep just call her Miss Andy. She can be the Monica Potter character.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's not a villain, but we could get Tyrese as Roman as Pinball, because I mean, like, he's kind of got Chappelle like jokey vibes.
Very well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I consider him a villain personally. In the Fast and Furious films.
And they can talk. They can talk just as fast, so that works. I love it. This is great. This is a movie. See, no Dwayne Johnson though, because. Whatever. So, what character did you pitch him as Diamond Dog? There'll probably be a spin-off.
But we've put. Let's keep. Who do we put?
We put Rick Yoon as Diamond Dog.
Yeah,
okay,
Rick Yoon's Diamond Dog. There we go.
Yeah. No Dwayne Johnson. I don't want a spin-off.
No worries.
That slows down the production of the films, and then they get delayed during the pandemic, and then things happen.
Yeah. No one's calling each other a candy ass in this one.
Do you like Hobbs and Shaw, Joey?
I do. So. The issue that I'm having as we go on is that the longer we go without getting a sequel and without tying back in and I know that like that's a crazy thing to say considering there's only been one other movie since then, but the fact that we've watched these movies like 5 or 6 times since that movie came out, like we've talked about them so much, but the longer we go without more, it feels more and more wasted. And, Joe, my co-host over on Too Fast, describes it as one of the most fun Fast and Furious movies, but I just want more from it. Like, I want Etion to get folded in. I want Hobbs to come back. Shaw is back in the credit scene in 9, but, like, if it's just going to be on its own forever and nothing ever comes of it, like, it feels just like a wasted opportunity. But I do like it. I think they're all I think all 10 of them are perfect movies, of course, but... I just, I like it. Like it slides down my rankings the more we go through it, just because I want more from it.
Got it. Needs more Madame M.
Yeah, she's the best.
She needs a bigger role.
I do think, and we might have talked about this when you've been on our show, I don't know, but like the introduction of Hattie, the Vanessa Kirby character, like she's, one of the best characters they've introduced in years,
yes.
Right? So like, I think Hobbs and Shaw, more so than most other movies in the franchise, introduced interesting, compelling female characters, specifically Hattie and Madame M, and I just want more from them. Like if we never get another Hattie, like that's gonna be that's a bummer.
Yeah, that's a great point. Listen to you speaking the truth. That's why we brought you on here. I have a love-hate.
To please.
I have a love-hate with Hobbs and Shaw.
I get it.
Hey, so Jay, should we talk about Con Air?
I think we should. So I have a question. What is John Cusack's character doing in Vacaville prison? Why is he driven an hour from where is it? From the Oakland airport. Why has he gone north from there to the prison that Cyrus just vacated? For what purpose? Why is he back there?
To get a sweet running explosion scene in his sandals?
I mean, mission successful in a couple of weeks' time. But it doesn't. In the script, they talk about he's going back there to sort something out for tomorrow. That's as much detail as they go into. He's talking to Ginny. She's asking him, like, got any plans for the weekend? Because he's going up to Vacaville to sort something tomorrow. Then at the weekend, he's got a frozen pizza, a 12-pack of Rolling Rock, and Channel 7 is showing all 5 Planet of the Apes movies, and he's kooky for Roddy McDowell. Is a line from the script, which they wisely decided to cut from the film. But yeah, I just want to know why is he here? What's he doing it?
You can tell Scott Rosenberg wrote it because in Beautiful Girls, Matt Dillon's talking about staying home watching a film thing, like a TV show all the way through one night while drinking beer, and then so he has Cusack do this in this one as well, going back to the same well. Sorry, that's completely off topic.
I can only assume that part of the job of overseeing the plane transport is making sure all of the files from each prisoner get processed as well. So he's back there sorting out the guys who came from this prison. Because this isn't the prison that Pyro and Baby came from. They came from San Quentin, which is only like 25 minutes away from Oakland. So we've got at least 2 prisons of criminals.
So by this point in the movie, they don't know that anything's amiss. Is that correct?
That is correct. They are oblivious to everything. This is what keys them off is these guards finding the soft brick.
I have got to say, the craftsmanship on this fake soft brick is
We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it because, I mean, what's hidden inside there is it's the plans for the plane, and then there's the anarchist cookbook by William Powell.
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Regal's Handbook of Industrial Chemistry. Those two things, the only thing that from those books that he would produce from having those books is the bomb that is in that brick hole. So he only has those books for the purpose of having the trap. So yes, there's the plane blueprints are in there as well. Great. But like he got the cookbook, he got the industrial chemistry to make the bomb, to blow up the books that he got to make the bomb. It's just a cycle. And I love how like vindictive Cyrus is, that he's just like he's just such a twat to everyone, such a just so devious to set this trap, and then everything that's in there is just to blow up the trap that he set. It's great. I love it.
Wow.
One of my all-time favorite things, and this is going to take a little bit of time to get there. It's just a way for me to compliment the craftsmanship here. But one of my all-time favorite things is Sam and Max. It was originally started as a comic book, and then it became a computer game in the 90s, and it's all wonderful. And they've remade the computer game a couple different ways. But in the comic book, in Sam and Max Surfing the Highway, they show how to survive in prison. And Max, who is a lagomorph, which is kind of like a rabbit but not a rabbit, explains how to basically, mold and shape and put together bars of soap to make it look like you have an AK-47. And it's like, once you have that, like, nobody's going to mess with you. But there's like, it's a step-by-step where just like you take the bar of soap, you whittle it a little bit, you get a little bit wet, you put it together, whatever. And then all of a sudden the next panel, it's just a fully done AK-47. And it feels like here, just like, okay, so here's how you make, whatever powder is going to block off these secret plans that are necessary, like totally unnecessary, totally needless, whatever. And it's like step one, step two, like, you get your toilet, your hooch or whatever, and you mix this powder together from the commissary, you mix it with water and you let it set. But like, it seems like we would jump forward, like, how do you finish it with like the exact shade of paint that the rest of the wall is painted? Like,
that's so smooth.
The amount of work that needs to go through, I feel like it's impossible. But if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Cyrus the Virus.
Absolutely. I mean, I've googled how to make clay in prison, and nothing really came up. And I didn't want to dig too far into this because, I've also been googling the Anarchist Cookbook and Regal's Handbook of Industrial Chemistry today, and I feel like I'm on some kind of a watch list. So, fine. But yeah, just the fact that he's made it to a nice smooth finish, that's got to require some kind of tools that he's then hidden somewhere else in the cell. Like, are they down the sink somewhere? How often is he breaking into this brick to get the plane blueprints or the other things that we'll talk about next week, the code, the cipher? How often is he going in there to check that and then putting the brick back in place to seal it up again? It's beautifully done. Like, we see a shot from inside the hole looking out, and it's smooth on the back as well. Like...
it's seriously a level of craftsmanship that like it's in a movie filled with over the top insane things. Like, it is the most over the top, most congratulatory. Like, this is just, you did it. Like, I feel like if you're that good at arts and crafts, you have a brighter future than, hijacking planes. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like, you have a future ahead of you.
Well, I mean, he got a doctorate in prison, so he's used his time well. He's capable of anything.
So, Jay, are you saying that he built a bomb to blow up the books that helped him build the bomb?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's also blowing up the code and the blueprints, but the main things we're highlighted in this chapter is the Anarchist Cookbook and the chemical engineering book, which, like, the only reason they're there is to make the bomb that blows up the books. I love it. It's wonderful.
I was hoping you'd have like a copy of Emma or something in there as well, just to give him some. What book would you like to see in his cell? I can't say Infinite
Dangerous
Jest.
Liaisons. Because this is a callback to previous Malkovich films.
Oh, that's
And
perfect.
the previous Keanu Reeves film, another
cool.
podcast I did on the network. I also have a book podcast. Just go to cageclub.me/Joey and poke around. There's a lot over there.
Oh,
I
man.
do like Dangerous Liaisons as a choice, though.
That's perfect. Jay, you're on fire tonight, man.
Thank you. So we're also in this scene, well, we meet the guards briefly that find this. So we have guard Renfro is played by Gerard Leheureux, who has 6 credits to his name. He was the chauffeur in The Big Lebowski. He's Lebowski's chauffeur. Is the only other kind of big thing in it. Just a bunch of small parts, and he hasn't worked since '98. So not much on him. But Pete Antico plays the other guard. Pete Antico, storied career, been in a bunch of stuff, loads of things, acting and mainly stunt work. He's a big advocate for stunt artist rights. He's the guy who in a couple of chapters will open the tin and kill everyone. But in this chapter, he's just kind of hanging out in the background. But yeah, he's been in Die Hard 2. He's in Jurassic Park 2. Personal favorite of mine. Like Training Day, Santa with Muscles. He's done stunts for everything. Executive Decision. He did stunts for. I listened to an interview with him the other day, which he doubled Robert De Niro in Midnight Run for the train sequence where they jump on a train. He's playing De Niro in that role. His first film was 1941 with Spielberg. So he's got just a real illustrious career, and he's just kind of hanging out in the background here. I don't know if he did a lot of stunts in Con Air. He's just credited for acting, which is odd, given that he's in a scene that doesn't got a lot of stunts in it. There's like an explosion coming up, but that's about it.
Well, maybe he's in that to do... It would make sense that if you're going to hire him to do stunts, you would also cast him in a scene where there's no stunts, so that like when you're shooting that, he doesn't have to do double duty. But if he's not credited as doing stunts,
yeah,
then
exactly.
it's weird. Then you just hired him to be an actor.
Hey, make that
It's
money.
Weird kind of.
Yeah,
I can't make
fair
sense
play
of
to
that.
him. It's just odd to me. And then the guy who arrives in the cell just behind Cusack is John. I'm not sure it's Robot Ham or Robotham. I prefer Robot Ham as a pronunciation, but it's probably Robotham.
I love Robot Ham. That's a great name.
I'm so happy though that stuntmen and women are starting to direct movies now. You know, like I think they're getting a bigger presence in the industry, so stunts are starting to get taken more seriously, which makes me happy. I mean, these people look back in the day, like 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s. Like the stuntmen were insane. So I'm just kind of happy that like with David Leitch and that kind of crew rolling right now, that like J.J. Perry, who directed one of my favorite movies. What's it called? Bloodshot. He just directed Day Shift. So he's directing movies now. So I don't know. I like it. I like that. And like stuntman safety, like these, it's dangerous.
Mark, haven't you talked about Bloodshot on like 4 different podcasts? Like, how'd you forget the name of that movie?
It's an annual thing at this point.
I love it, man. Like all the athleisure wear in it, I think is pretty great. I like Lamorne Morris a lot. You got Vin Diesel. You got Isaac Gonzalez. You have Guy Pearce wearing a sweater. You have the guy from Outlander smacking gum. You have a flower fight. Yeah, elevator fight.
I still haven't seen it.
I had a ticket to that movie on March 12th, 2020, and I left my house. Like, that was the day where everybody's just like, flights are being canceled. We should probably not go anywhere. And I looked at the movie theater, and I was the only person in the entire, 250-seat auditorium who had bought a ticket. And I'm like, I want to see this in the theater because I don't know when we're going to be able to see it. We were going to cover it on Too Fast, but I'm like, I can't get COVID from having seen, or whatever the novel coronavirus is at this point. We don't know what it is yet, but I can't get it having seen Bloodshot. And so I just turned around and went home. And then, what was it, like a week or two later, it was on VOD. But I left my house the night before lockdown started to go see Bloodshot.
I had the same experience with The Hunt.
I chickened out.
Which I had a ticket booked. I didn't leave my house. I kind of made the decision to stay home and just didn't. Which I liked the film.
I think,
yeah.
I like The Hunt too. I want to say I had, because at that time I have since canceled it, but I had A-List, and I think I had bought tickets to both, but I think there were 5 or 6 people, again in a big auditorium, who had tickets to The Hunt. I'm like, I don't want to risk that, but with Bloodshot, literally nobody else there, I could do that maybe, but I didn't.
What do you think about Bloodshot, Joey?
I like it. I kind of was hoping for a little bit more. I think it was also a weird kind of I would be interested to revisit it, I think. We covered it, when it came out on VOD for Too Fast. We wound up doing it anyway. I like Vin Diesel and everything. I love Isaac Gonzalez. I love Lamorne Morris. I think that Winston on New Girl is one of the funniest characters in the last, 15 or 20 years of TV, but it didn't come together for me in a way that I loved, but I know how much you love it. I would be interested to watch it again and see if my opinions change.
There's a scene in it where Lamorne Morris looks at Vin Diesel and he's like, wait, can't you just say thanks? And then for the rest of the movie, Bloodshot just says thanks to Wiley Wiggins. It's like, thanks. Like, so, like, I just like that little touch right there. And I like the Toby Kebbell dancing. I like that, the beginning I was like, oh man, this is kind of rough, but it's all a dream. It's all a simulation. It's smart. It's just a $40 million movie that I like. And J.J. Perry was the fight choreographer on it, stunt coordinator. So there's good stunts in it. Fun. Also, real quick, guys, I just want to say, Crystal Creasy, Betty Gilpin in The Hunt, that's a really good character in a movie that got absolutely kind of dropped and like not watched. But she's not an all-timer.
It's one of my favorite performances in the past few years, easily. Just the choices that she makes are great. Like when she's in the car and she like lifts herself up and spins around and kicks that guy in the face, that's just beautiful. That scene does not get enough credit.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Betty Gilpin all the way going back to Nurse Jackie, which I think she has looked back on that as hating her time on that show because I think they made her get naked in a lot of ways that like she did not feel comfortable doing, but did it because it was one of her first big jobs and so on and so forth. But I thought she was really, really funny and really good on that show. So then when she went on to Glow and has since made movies, I'm like, oh yeah, like I've known about her for years. And people are like, oh, where does she come from? It's like, well, if you're watching like second or third tier shows on second or third tier cable networks, you would know.
I feel like I should have known about it then. That's my wheelhouse.
Also, she just put out a book. She wrote a book recently.
Oh, nice.
Oh, what is it? Autobiography?
It's called All the Women in My Brain. I think it's nonfiction. I think it's a book of essays. Like it just came out like in the last week or two. Came out in September.
Has it gotten glowing reviews?
Does it have any reviews on Amazon yet? I don't know if it has no reviews on Amazon yet.
Oh,
we could be the first.
I'm sure if you hunt them down, you'll find some.
But
I'm playing off of Mark's glowing reviews. Anyway, John Robotham played Guard Ryan in this. He also did. He seems to play guards a lot. He was a guard in Ocean's 11. He was a guard in Prison Break. And he's done stunts as well. He did stunts on Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, Ghostbusters 2.
Wow.
Silence of the Lambs. He's a stunt coordinator. He's done so many things, and he's just kind of hanging out in the background with Cusack, and then blows up in a couple of weeks. And the only other actor that we meet this time round is David Roberson, who is the guy sat next to his supervisor, sat next to Cusack. He said like the virus when he asked what cell it is. Who he's been in a few things here and there, but nothing is really jumping out at me. But that's the guy. He's in Steel Sharks, or same year as Connor, Steel Sharks. He played Lieutenant Dave Zamborski. Anyway, so I just wanted to highlight the actors that we meet this time around. Whilst they're on screen, because it's not for very much longer.
I was saying this to Mark today via Twitter, but on Too Fast, we do the Fast and Furious Minute. Like, I know that we're not new to the minute-by-minute podcast breakdown, but it's amazing to me how much different timing there is between watching a minute of a thing and 3 minutes of a thing.
Yes.
Like, there's so much more than happens. And I also feel like this 3-minute chunk, we're like in 4 or 5 different locations. Like there's a lot going on, a lot of characters, a lot of different actions, a lot of things being set up and discovered and expanded upon. And there's just a lot going on everywhere in this chapter.
I listen to a lot of Movies by Minutes podcasts. Moviesbyminutes.com is where you can find a bunch of them. And it's rare that you'll have more than 2 locations in a minute. It's rare that you'll have 2 locations in a minute, but more than that is almost unheard of. I think 1 minute of Silverado takes place in 3 settings. Is about as much as I can think of. Where like it starts one place, is a 40 second bit in the middle, then it ends somewhere else. But yeah, it's rare, and we prefer the chapter by chapter format. It fits our schedule, our recording schedule a bit better, once a week. But I do love the minute by minute format as well. So, moviesbyminute.com. I recommend it highly.
I get more weird when we go minute by minute though, because I think. You just got to freestyle on those ones to make that hour work.
Yeah, the ones that end mid sentence or just mid anything. You got to find stuff to talk about which
So
some people
Joey,
are very good at doing.
we did a best years of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We did 5 minutes of it, and one of them I think we dedicated just talking about doing pull-ups.
We did 10
was,
minutes, but yeah, there's a guy who pulled himself up into a plane, and we talked about that for a while. One we talked about for about 20 minutes about wet socks. So yeah, you find what you can to talk about in these films.
Well, like we do this like incredibly needlessly complex thing where we also like have a minute by minute document. Like while I'm talking, I'm going to bring up the first minute by minute document where we have the entire screenplay, every outfit that every character has worn, every car that's in the movies, every sign, every product, every brand, every song, a summary of what happens in each minute so we can like reference this thing. But I don't know who needs that. We just do it, and we just kind of like do this really analytical breakdown. So we don't get as weird as we could, but as we're recording this, Mark, you'll know the scene very well. In Too Fast, Too Furious, there's the scene where Brian and Roman are on that bridge talking about Roman getting busted and Brian forgiving him, or Roman forgiving Brian, like Brian letting Dom go and all this different stuff. Roman is eating something that we always just assumed was like maybe a candy bar or like a sandwich or something, but the way that it looks, the way that it sounds, the way that he bites it, and the way that he moves it around, none of those sounds or things align. And so we spent the last 3 of these minutes being like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what he's eating. We thought we knew. It doesn't make any sense. And so it's one of the more weird things we've gotten, just because when you're watching that closely, you're like, why is this sound effect here? It doesn't make any sense. So I applaud the movie minute breakdown, because it lets you get real weird and in depth on things that like somebody never thought you should look at.
I want to research it now, see if I can figure it out. I always like a challenge.
It's minutes 73 and 74 in Too Fast. So
okay, 73, 74.
Our first minute by minute document for the first movie is 255 pages in Google Docs.
Oh, that's amazing.
So nobody needs that, but we have it.
Yeah, I when I take notes, I have about 5 pages per movie. So I guess that makes sense. Just do a master doc. Oh, I love it so much. And also, but the challenge, I think I can do it. Last time I got challenged, I did the Con Air seating chart.
And now we have this podcast.
Yeah, now we have this podcast. And then I got the sleeveless shirt assignment that we thought about. And then I watched over 100 Nicolas Cage movies for sleeveless shirts. So I finished that. Now it's what's Roman eating.
Hey, Mark, can I ask a question to Jay? Just like pretend, just don't listen for a second. I just gotta talk to Jay one-on-one here for a second. Jay, what you gotta do is you gotta figure out what movie you want to watch really badly, and just make Mark be like, hey Mark, I bet you can't, XYZ in movie ABC, and then get him so invested in the thing that he's gonna be like, hey, let's talk about this movie. You're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I think I could do that.
How much would it cost to build the whole Lego movie?
That's
bricks from Bricklink.
All right, Mark, you can come back here. I think it's. Thank you for stepping away for a second. I just wanted to talk to Jay for a second. We're new. We're just getting to know each other. Friend stuff. It's.
How long would it take Wally to make those skyscrapers of trash?
Now I was just repairing my wall. I had some books in there, so I was covering everything up and doing that. So I'm glad you guys got to catch up.
We have to talk about what's been cut out of this scene, because there's the director's
Black cherry
cut,
Jello,
which I don't have access to, but I found the scene where when Poe decides he doesn't want to go, doesn't want to be bagged and gagged, he's recognized. He's asked, like, what's your name again? And he's like, Cameron Poe. And Pimble's like, wait, I know that name. And Diamond Dog's like, you're Cameron Poe. And he's got this whole backstory of he's the guy who killed the giant, Wallace Wilson. And he killed him, depending on if it's the script or the deleted scene, because he took his strawberry Jello, or his black cherry Jello in the deleted scene. And it's like, this whole scene is cut out of like this epic backstory for Cameron Poe as this Jello Terminator.
He killed a guy.
He killed a guy for taking his Jello because he liked Jello.
Yeah, I have the extended cut, and they're all really into it. They're like, yeah, you killed the giant, and yeah, he's like, you took my black cherry Jello, and then he's like, I like black cherry Jello, and Cyrus the Virus goes, and I like you, Cameron Poe. Like it's an odd scene, but it's inferred that Cameron Poe killed a man in prison
over Jello.
Over Jello. Which
understandable, to be honest.
Yeah, listen, you don't steal a person's Jello in prison.
No, sir.
I feel like the laws are somewhere. You can kill somebody if they try to take your Jello in prison.
And there's another. They add another reasoning for why Cameron stays on the plane, which lots of swears. I'll let them out. Where Johnny 23 walks up to Poe. I will F her, and then I will F you, and then I will F your family, and then I will F your friends. And Poe replies, okay, but for now, just F yourself. And that kind of helps him to decide to stay on the plane to prevent Bishop from any more altercations with Johnny 23. They cut that out as well, because there's a lot of swear words in a short amount of time.
I feel like that's another thing that I was sort of caught off guard. I know this movie's rated R. I've seen this movie multiple times before. But again, going for that minute-by-minute breakdown, all the Fast and Furious movies are rated PG-13, so you only get the one F word per movie, generally speaking. And we make a big deal of, like, which character's going to get it, whatever. And so here, just to have a guard so casually say it, I'm just like, oh, right, you can just do that. Like, I almost forgot, like, obviously I've seen many R-rated movies, like, even recently. I'm an adult, guys, but it's weird to like see the scene where it's just casually thrown off and then like watch it again and again. It's just like, oh right, like it's weird when you hear that kind of like gruff phrasing over and over and over again, because that's not something that we encounter on Too Fast.
Well, yeah, I mean the Fast and Furious has found a way to be very family friendly, has it not?
Yeah.
And then just be a worldwide blockbuster. Yeah. Did this? All right, watching this movie again, Joey, is it harsher than you remember, or do you always remember as being kind of harsh?
Well, so the premise is harsh, right? Like it's a bunch of like the baddest of the badass guys in the sky, right?
The
like,
worst of the worst. That's what they're called.
Yeah, you need them to be gruff. You need them to be like actually violent. But like if you go like, okay, so what? Wait, what'd you say that Johnny? What's that nickname coming from?
Wait, how many?
Like, yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh no. I think that you're caught up in the like when you think about this movie. Like in the Matrix, like the residual self-image, what's the first thing? Like how do you picture yourself? How do you picture the movie? You think of Nicolas Cage with the hair and the wind, that gift that gets passed around over and over again. And I think a lot of the kind of gruff stuff falls away. But like these are bad dudes doing bad things, saying bad things to each other, and it is kind of nasty. But like it in a believable, necessary kind of way.
Yeah, this wouldn't work as a PG-13.
No.
Because you can't have all these killers on board just saying, "Oh shucks."
Dagnammit.
Yeah, he kissed 23 women. Kiss? Yeah, kiss. But they didn't want it.
Yeah.
He didn't ask for consent.
Yeah, it's just, oh, dang. But yeah, it's, I think I would have liked it if they kept in Johnny 23 going at Poe again.
Yeah.
Because I just love Poe's fearlessness in this. Like, when Billy Bedlam looks at him, he goes... I like your cage. When Falzon takes a picture away from him, he's like, I'm going to get that back. There's a very sassy side to Cameron Poe, like a dangerous side. He's almost too quick with his comebacks. It's kind of annoying.
Well, the last time he and 23 had an interaction was a fight. And after that, I was like, okay, we're going to like step ends of the plane from each other. And then in this scene, Johnny's like right behind Poe, as Pimble's doing the gagging, and then coming up, they have conversations coming up almost like they share a line here and there, and it's weird that I feel like they should be at odds with each other for the rest of the film. They literally one of them punched the other very recently when the other one was trying to rape somebody who was the guy's friend. They should not be buddies.
Yeah. Do you think Poe's just playing the game, trying to kind of keep a peace between them so he doesn't make waves? With
I think so.
Cyrus. But still, yeah, you're right. I would have liked them snipping at each other the entire time. And then Cage just keeps getting the best of them.
Well, like in terms of Cage's, like in terms of Cameron Poe's like fearlessness, like this is like the pivotal scene in the movie where he's like, I'm going to stay on the plane. Like this is where he chooses, I mean, he's doing it so he can get to his daughter more quickly, right? Because he's like, I'm going to have a clear path out, but who knows what's going to happen after that. But I know that this plane's going to go where it's going or whatever. But this is the turning point where he's like, no, I'm going to take charge of the situation.
Yeah. No, it's a good moment, right? I think they've built it up enough for him to stay there. And then he's like, what would my daughter think if I left? It makes sense that he stays, right?
Leave,
I think so.
You to get dishonored and die. I like that turn of phrase. Get dishonored and die. It's nice.
Oh. Yeah.
Maybe seems annoyed that he's trying to be the hero. Like you're not that guy anymore. You're a convict, sort of like a ranger. Like, he's always going to be that guy. He's always going to be like a ranger mindset. He's in prison for defending himself. Like, there's a big difference between him and Billy Bedlam. They're not the same kind of convict.
I mean, Poe killed Wangro. Like, he should be applauded for that, not put in prison.
He did a public service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he is very annoyed that he wants to stay on the plane and help his people. But and also, I want to say, I'm happy that they left out the murdering scene, because Cameron Poe murdering a guy for Jello, it's very intriguing. Like, I want
it doesn't fit at all.
When the Rancor Keeper comes in and cries over the Rancor, I want to know more, and I want to know more about this Jello scene. But I feel like more years would have been tacked onto his prison sentence if he murdered a guy for Jello.
Yes, and the Rancor Keeper is Malakili. I'd have to give him his name.
He cries, and then his buddy is like, "Hey, man, it's all good. Like, we're okay. You're okay. It's all fine. You hug me. We're cool."
Most emotional scene in the original trilogy. Just hands down. I love when Pinball's put in the barcodes on them. He uses the taser to seal it. I'd like to test if this works. I don't have one to test it with, but I have my doubts, but I'd love it if it did. I just love that's what he's using. I don't know where he found scissors on a plane. I know this is pre-2001, but still. But yeah, they're just using the taser to seal the plastic straps. Is great.
That's more arts and crafts, right? That's Cyrus the Virus level craftsmanship just in the air.
Oh
so
my
we
gosh.
cut the bit where Cyrus tells Pinball to use this. He pulled out a pair of scissors from his throat that he had in there for some reason. And it's another little baggie. Yeah.
What else is in there, Pinball? Pinball's the MVP of this movie. I mean, the taser scene with Popovich, reattaching the things. He has the clipboard. He's the one who lights somebody on fire. He gets all the prisoners out. Dave Chappelle gets a Pinball. Pinball is responsible for everything here, but he's not at the table, and it kind of bums me out. He's a nice guy.
Well, he makes a mistake very soon. Staying too long on the ground. We'll get there. But that's kind of his own fault, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, you need him to get back into that plane so he can drop on the beige Volvo.
Yeah, even after he's dead, he's still useful. He's definitely the MVP to both sides.
Joey, can I ask you a crazy question?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about this on a special episode recently, but what are your 5, since you've watched all of them, what are your 5 favorite Nicolas Cage performances?
Performances, that's interesting. Give me a second to think about that. I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but have you talked about the other Simon West Nicolas Cage team up, Stolen? Because I know
Stolen.
you've seen it
Not
recently.
yet.
Have you guys talked about that on the podcast?
No, we have not.
Yet, so we haven't talked about it yet.
We will, though, because of Josh Lucas's hair.
Yeah, I'm trying to track down a copy.
Because that is, I think, one of the better straight-to-video movies. Like, that was early in the VOD era for Cage. And, Mark, I want to know what you think about it, but I think it's, along with Seeking Justice, I think it's one of the better, more fun VOD movies from the last decade.
No, you're absolutely right. And when you think about it, when Cage started going to VOD, and the same thing happened with Cusack, where he did that Number Station movie, they had Frozen Ground, they had Seeking Justice, they had Stolen, which were totally fine action movies that were kind of made on a budget. So yeah, I think they really went in with, like, they tried on those movies, and they brought in big names. Like, Frozen Ground actually looks really good as a film. So he definitely, yeah, I mean, Cage works. He works in Stolen. It's just Josh Lucas's wig and glasses that I have never been taken out of a movie more in my life. Every time Josh Lucas was on screen with that wig, I just laughed. Like, I guess that's the one thing that keeps that from being an upper tier, like, direct-to-DVD Cage movie for me, is because of Josh Lucas's wig and his performance. That's the one thing that gets me.
For me, it's that the DVD cover has from Simon West, director of The Expendables 2, rather than from Simon West, director of Con Air.
You would think that you would sell more movies if you advertised Con Air, right? Because it's the guy from The Thing is in The Thing.
Yeah, from director of Never Gonna Give You Up, the music video. Should say on there.
Okay,
I have a theory.
You said 5 favorite performances, right?
Yep. But real quick, I think Expendables 2 is on it because there's jet skis in Expendables 2. And Scott Adkins.
That must be the case.
And Dolph Lundgren on a jet ski.
And Randy Couture.
I think there's a jet ski in the Tomb Raider movie he directed. Did Simon West direct the first or second Tomb Raider? The second one.
I don't know.
Or first
it
one.
Didn't come up when I saw it.
We should know.
He did the first one.
Oh, there's jet skis in that. She's doing flips on a jet ski.
Yeah, the second one has a shark punching.
He's also done the Statham movies, The Mechanic and Wild Card. I've not seen Wild Card, but he's found his lane, to be sure.
Oh, absolutely. But I think Expendables 2 is one of the better action films that's not A tier. Like, it's a solid B tier, belongs to the top of the B, second tier action film. That's just my thing.
Okay, let's get your five, Joey. What are your 5 cages?
Well, my favorite Cage movie, I don't know if it's my favorite performance, but it's definitely in the top 5, is Sailor Ripley in Wild at Heart. That's my favorite Nicolas Cage movie. It's my favorite David Lynch movie, I think. Although maybe that's Mulholland Drive. David Lynch is harder to rank for me than Cage, but Sailor Ripley up there. H.I. McDonough in Raising Arizona, I just love so much.
Beautiful.
Ronnie Camilleri in Moonstruck, definitely in there. I think probably either coin flip, either Red from Mandy, or Joe from Joe, or Rob from Pig. One of those more modern, grittier, sort of grounded, oh, he's still a great actor performances. And then the final one I'll do is kind of the wild card. My favorite genre he's ever done is rom-com. And I think Charlie, his role as Charlie in It Could Happen to You, which is one of my favorite Cage movies. I just love that movie so much. And the thing that I want the most Cage to do is a musical. He's not done a musical.
I was going to ask.
I don't know that he's ever done a musical. I don't know if he's ever going to do a musical. But I feel like rom-com is sort of musical adjacent. And I just think Bridget Fonda is so adorable, and that movie is so fun. And I just love that movie a lot. And I think that's, I don't know if it's necessarily one of my 5 favorite performances of his, but it's the genre, it's the movie, it's the era. I love it.
I do feel like Con Air could have been a musical, given that I think there's 4 or 5 prominent songs in it. So
there's got to be someone who has adapted this into a musical.
You're talking
right?
to him right now. No. I'd love to. But yeah, it's right for doing. If you can do Back to the Future the musical, you can do Con Air the musical. If you can do Groundhog Day the musical, you can do Con Air. It's mainly set on a plane. That's an easy set to do.
From 2014, a musical version of Simon West's hit action film Con Air is being readied for its Broadway debut, featuring a rare musical performance from the original star Nicolas Cage. Is this real?
I'm gonna guess no.
Oh my!
With music by Stuart Copeland and a book by British lyricist Tim
I'm gonna
Rice,
say
casting
big
is
no.
complete and rehearsals have begun.
What?
Such smash hits as Put the Bunny Back in the Box, Oh Billy Bedlam, You're a Font of Misplaced Rage, and Don't Land My Airplane in Las Vegas to the tune of Sweet Home Alabama.
This is the biggest lie I've ever heard. Yeah.
I like that song, though.
But man, it's good. It sounds good.
Cusack and Culottes. We got a song there.
Mm-hmm.
Rain Fights.
Okay, well, there's another article. Chad Kroger to play lead in new Nickelback-themed Con Air the Musical.
I would still watch it. I'm not a big Nickelback fan, but I would still watch
100%. I would watch that and play the soundtrack.
That song.
I'm so high, I can see heaven. It fits.
That Rain Fight song got me thinking about Gee, I'm Glad It's Raining from Ernest Goes to Camp.
Oh, they Dreamcast Michael K. Williams as Diamond Dog. Oh, that would have been good.
In the musical? Wow. I want to see Nick Cage as the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that would work.
I liked the one with Jerry Butler. I'm not gonna lie. I like P-Dub. I like Emma Rossum. It was a Schumacher joint. 8mm. There's a good Nick Cage attachment. Bring back Schumacher. They've done 2 movies together. Trespassed and that. Schumacher directed Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that's why you said him.
Oh,
you did a perfect circle in that one
Mark
sentence.
spiraled down his own rabbit hole so much he forgot why he started the spiral.
But it was so quick. It was like 10 seconds, and he was back. He looped himself.
Yeah,
he just turned on the spot.
I think I mentioned about 14 actors and movies in that process, and once it hits 10, I reset. Like my day, like on my Groundhog Day, when I say that, everything just resets.
Okay, you're okay.
So, no, I am not.
All right, so we got Joel Schumacher. He did Phantom of the Opera. Oh, wait, he did Phantom of the Opera. It's like, yeah, you just said
It was Joel Schumacher.
Wait, he could do Phantom of the Opera.
That's a musical.
Too. No, wait. No, this is where I went. No, this is where I went with it. Real quick, this is in my head. This could, I'll listen to the playback because it probably sounds nothing like it. But when I said Nick Cage in Phantom of the Opera, and then I said something about 8mm.
Because
how did I get to 8mm?
Nick Cage Phantom of the Opera. I liked the Joel Schumacher one.
Yeah.
And then there's the 8mm collection. And Joel
No, I thought you
Schumacher.
said I liked the Jerry Butler. I said I liked the Jerry Butler one.
No. You said the Joel Schumacher. You got Jerry Butler. You got Emmy Rossum. And Joel Schumacher did it. It's like, yeah, you just said that.
It was wonderful.
You said his full first name and last name at the beginning of the thought and the end of the thought.
I'm just too. Yeah, that rabbit hole that went deep.
We don't really record on a Friday. I think this is why.
No, I'm feeling great, y'all. That's I went down such a great rabbit hole. I basically short-circuited my brain. It's impressive.
So when Cyrus tells Billy Bowen to pick a guard, do you think he's annoyed that he picked Falzon? Because he's the one that Cyrus had a little bit of back and forth banter with earlier. He's like maybe the smartest girl on the plane, other than Bishop perhaps. And if I was Cyrus, I'd be like, oh, he's my buddy. We had some jokes, had some laughs. I chained him up by his neck to a fence. And now he's getting...
It's a great question.
Now he's getting off the plane. There's other unnamed guards he could have taken. Was he taking Falzon? I love Falzon. He needs to be in the film more.
Good. He's good at riffing. I don't think he cares at this point.
Probably not.
Like he's
other things in his mind.
Right? He just wants... Yeah, exactly. Like he's got to get the plane, get Sandino, do all that. He's probably happy to have him off because he doesn't have to be worried about riffing with him all the time.
He's already using up his A stuff on the prisoners. He can't start repeating his jokes and his comebacks. Yeah.
Yeah, just get him out of there. Do you like Cyrus's quips, Joey? When he just do you like when Cyrus he says he's killed more people than cancer? Does that make him less intimidating to you or
Can
more?
you fly, Johnny?
I don't know. Like it's I haven't seen this full movie in a couple years, so I was just watching here, and I feel like in this chapter in particular, Malkovich is a little checked out. Like, I think when he's talking to Cage, he's like, the eye contact's not there. He's like, maybe it's by choice. Like, I'm not doubting Malkovich the actor, because on another podcast I do, 1999 the podcast, again, entirely too many podcasts, we are either about to just watch and record, or we have just recorded, because I don't even know what the schedule of that show is, being John Malkovich. So, like, I'm going to have Malkovich in my brain in a big way Cusack. Very soon. And Cusack. But there was something about the scene where I'm just like, I'm not getting something from Cyrus here that I want. I like a quip from the villain. I don't know that I want quippiness to be his entire thing. I think his menace is his whole thing. So I think having a few quips here and there makes it a more well-rounded character. Because if he's just evil and cruel, it's not really fun. So I don't mind it, but it has to be done sparingly and tastefully.
That's a great point.
I feel like he's checked out because he's talking to people who are going to get off the plane soon. They're going to get gagged. They're not really a concern of his. He's already dismissed them from the plane in his mind, and he's thinking about the next thing. But I love how close Diamond Dog gets when Poe's like, I want to stay. He just crouches down and gets right in his face. It's so intimidating. Mm-hmm. It's such an odd choice for Ving Rhames to do, just to get right in there. It's great.
Well, they were all fighting for screen time. Yeah. So Ving Rhames was like, I got to do something here.
I haven't said anything for like 10 minutes. I'm getting in there.
I mean, it is a little suspicious. Like, he's like, I don't want to go all of a sudden. But I think Cage covers up for it pretty well.
Yeah, it's like, did you see Shawshank Redemption? That Brooks guy. He was institutionalized. I'm like that guy. We saw that in prison. He's fear of freedom. That's it.
That was a good line. I like that.
I'm going to miss out on his chance for Sexy Naked Freak. Whatever.
I conflated Shawshank with this movie in that scene because I'm like, are they going to lift a poster and there's going to be a hole behind? But no, it's just they again, going back to the craftsmanship, they just completely rebuilt the wall. But I'm like, is there a poster that he dug out behind?
Well,
nope.
He would have needed
more
some
complicated
kind of a
than
tool
that
to hack out the original brick that was in there. So he might have needed some kind of little rock hammer to get in, perhaps. Worn down to the nub.
Maybe. Do we know how long Cyrus is in prison for before the plane?
He has been in prison for a very long time. Hang on, let me flip back a couple of chapters.
Since he was 14?
Because it takes Andy Dufresne like 20 years or something, right, to bury out. So like
Cyrus He's 39 and he's been in prison on and off for 25. He spent 25 years in their institutions. So, but
wow.
various cells and various prisons here and there.
So he's had the time to carve out.
Yeah, and bear in mind, Andy Dufresne dug a whole tunnel, whereas Cyrus is digging out a single brick. So less time needed, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know how long it took him to rebuild.
That's
right?
very
That
true.
could have taken decades.
And again, how many times has he had to do it?
Yeah, because he can't have the books out.
No, that's it. Every time he uses them, he has to put them back into the hole and then remake that brick from materials that are hidden somewhere, with tools that are hidden somewhere that are not in that hole. But then there is a big cavity inside there, so maybe he just hides in the cavity sometimes and does it from the inside. I don't know.
Who's working with him?
Well, we know Pinball, Diamond Dog know about the plan, and Cindino and Swamp Thing know about the plan, but they're in a different prison. So those are the 5 that know.
I guess you could smuggle in the blueprints pretty easily if you're a major crime lord. Just
Yeah.
blackmail a guard.
I feel like the chemical book is probably in the prison library for people that are learning how to do. They're getting their PhDs in prison. The Anarchist Cookbook going to be a little more tricky to get hold of in prison, I would hope. So I'm not sure, but then that's a smaller book, so that could be secreted somewhere, perhaps. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to think about it. My one last note for this chapter is Sims has been wearing recording equipment this entire time. It's still going. He's been shot. He's fallen down. It's still going. But he was wearing that, presumably, when he was being searched before getting on the plane. And he was supposed to have been searched by someone who did not know he was an undercover DEA agent. It's only when Malloy steps in and is like, "Oh, I'll search this guy." Had Malloy not stepped in, then the recording stuff would have been found. Jigs up.
Yeah. That'd have been an interesting conversation.
It would have been. What are you doing? It's for my podcast. I'm recording on the plane.
If Willie never pulled that gun, do you think they still would have had easy control of the plane? They would have gotten to the pilots. They already did get to the pilots.
Yeah.
They had one gun.
Yeah, what do you think, Joey? If Sims hadn't pulled the gun, how do you think that would have gone down?
I don't know. It feels like this plan in general is so well executed and also like the sloppiest thing imaginable, which I guess you kind of have to like fly a little bit, no pun intended, fly a little bit by the seat of your pants here. But how do you not find that? Like it, and it's not like it's 2022 technology where it's like much smaller. Like this is like a Walkman taped to his chest.
Yeah, it's a reel-to-reel.
Like it should be visible from the outside of the shirt.
Was he sat next to someone? Where's his seating chart, Mark?
Oh, I got it. Actually, I have it right here. I have it pulled up. Here. That's funny you asked that. All right, so let's see. Willie Sims was in 5B. No, he was by himself.
Okay, that's.
And then he was to
Oh
his
yes, because
right.
he was going to be sat next to Cindino when Cindino got on the plane. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And behind him was Pinball and Warlock.
Okay.
Man, I love that of the seating chart. That was. This thing makes me happy.
That's why we have this podcast.
It comes in handy for sure.
Nice. Okay. Any other notes you have for this chapter, Joey?
No, I think this is fascinating. I think it's interesting to be plunked in the middle of a thing. Like I've listened to the episode so far, but like I was saying to Mark, I'm like, is there anything I need to know? He's just like, no, we kind of freewheel it. But like I've listened to every episode of your show that I've been able to so far, and had I not seen the movie before, have I not seen Con Air before, I would not be able to describe anything that's happened in this movie. I could talk to you about, culottes. I could talk to you about Mark's friend who talks, he and Mark talk, or she and Mark talked, and you were just sat there like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get a word in edgewise. Like, I love the surrounding thing of your show, but it's so fascinating to me to be like dumped in the middle of a movie in a scene where like I understand what's going on from like previous context, but I don't know. So I think it's just an interesting experience. I'm glad you had me on, but no more notes specifically about this.
That shows how well that Mark and Heather get on, that you think she's Mark's friend. Well, I've known Heather for about 5 years longer than Mark has. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But they just get on. They are a perfect match, Mark and Heather. But yeah, I just like to sit back and listen sometimes.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jay. I think we get a little unruly going on there. And that's also the greatest compliment that I think I've ever been given, where we've released 9 episodes and someone who has listened to those episodes still can't really explain the movie. I want that on every. I'm gonna put that on my resume, on my LinkedIn.
Bear in mind,
everywhere.
I give a description of what happens in the chapter at the start of each episode.
Yeah, but Jay, even that's an afterthought. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
the premise of this podcast is just to get together and talk about things adjacent and surrounding Con Air for an hour, wherever that may go. The plot itself is, whatever, until you get to that, Steve Buscemi scene. People are just like, this is the most important scene in the history of
Is
cinema.
this girl really there? Is she in his brain?
Right. But yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I mean, I started doing the chapter descriptions when we did Deep Sea 2 and 3 because no one had seen them. And it's just kind of carried on. Anyway, great. Well, thank you for joining us, Joey. Please take 20 minutes to do all of your plugs.
Well, the easiest way is just go to cageclub.me/Joey to find all my shows, but I've got 3 active ones right now. Every other Monday is 1999, the podcast, where we go through the movies of the year 1999, including a film we've not gotten to yet, but Deep Blue Sea, a movie that I think one or two of you may have seen before. Then every Tuesday, it's Too Fast, Too Forever. Right now, we are in lap 12 as this episode comes out. And then every Thursday, it's really every other Thursday, but we've been interviewing authors lately. We have a book club podcast called How to Win the Lottery, where every other Thursday we read a book and talk about it. And in the off weeks, if the author is able to and willing and interested in talking with us, we talk to them about the book. So Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. But cageclub.me has basically new shows every day of the week. So go there, check it out, including, 150 or something episodes of Nicolas Cage movies, including Con Air. So go do that thing over there.
Okay, cool. Mark, any plugs?
I think I might be covering a certain movie about a last witch hunter with Joey the Joeys, the great Joeys, on the Vin Diesel lap. We'll see. We haven't locked down dates yet, but I think I called the movie, right?
I think it will be in February.
Okay, cool. Because I love the Last Witch Hunter. They just make Vin Diesel immortal.
Every time I think about that movie, I am stunned that it is set in modern day.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
It should not be.
The Last Witch Hunter.
It's modern day New York City. It's not like the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s like the title implies. Nope, it's modern day. It's like,
well, I suppose
what?
the last one, I guess. Makes sense.
You have that big tree in there. the first and last Witch Hunter.
Oh,
well, that's a good one. Let's see. Movies, Films, and Flicks. Movies, Films on FLIX. You can listen to that. You can read all the reviews. Let's see. Film Theory. I have a Lord of the Rings thing coming out, and my Elmo episode just dropped, so you can read about the lore of Elmo and Rocco. Fandom. Go check out. I did all the Tom Cruise stats, so you can go watch that video. We got some really fun ones coming up. I'm currently watching all of Dragon Ball Z, and it's kind of making my eyeballs bleed a little bit, but it's a really fun show, pulling a ton of data for that. And yeah, Joel Schumacher. Watch his movies. Watch Phantom of the Opera. Watch 8mm.
Hey, did you know that one was directed by Joel Schumacher?
Wait, really?
I was
I heard it from someone.
Yeah, watch Batman Forever. That one's a really good one. Hey, wait, Nicole Kidman reunites with Nick Cage in Trespass, which is directed by... I know, how's Nicole Kidman in it? Yeah, directed by... And
Nicolas Cage.
It's directed by Joel Schumacher. Hey, and Cam Gigante's in it, and he was in Never Back Down, which was not directed by Joel Schumacher. But still, it's a nice connection.
Gigante, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and a Joel Schumacher directed movie.
I do love Trespass. I understand that Trespass is not good, but I do love that movie.
Ben Mendelsohn, Nicole Kidman, Nicolas Cage, like stacked cast. And you know what? Weren't they supposed to make that movie and then it got canceled? And then they were like, oh, I guess we can make it now. They went through some things. Maybe Cage got a pay cut, or did I just make that up?
I don't remember. I do remember that Emily Mead from The Leftovers, and then she was in that what was the David Simon porn movie, or not movie, HBO series, The Deuce?
Yeah, The Deuce.
But Emily Mead, HBO superstar actress, is also in, I think she plays like the daughter or like the best friend or something. But yeah, Trespass is a good movie. I don't know if it was canceled or not. I have no recall of that. But again, like you introduced me, I might have forgotten it.
Can I tell you guys a conspiracy theory?
Please.
All right. So how did this get made? I used to recommend movies on the board way back in the day. I remember one time I recommended Trespass. I was like, Nick Cage, I wrote up a big thing about it, and then their next episode was Trespass. So I'm wondering if that thing that I wrote might have influenced them. It's not it's not the best How Did This Get Made episode, because it's not super, super bonkers like a Howard the Duck or a Ernest Goes to Jail, which is a great episode. But yeah, I feel like I might have, I don't know, that's my conspiracy theory. I wrote that down and then they covered it.
You're an influencer.
Yeah, That's it. That's all the plugs. Wait. I'm sorry. Phone Booth, the Joel Schumacher directed film with Colin Farrell. I think everyone should watch, and Katie Holmes.
And directed by Joel Schumacher.
I like that Mark was done. He's like, that's all my plugs. Jay starts, and he's like, wait, I got another Joel Schumacher movie to reference. Mark, did you know that Joel Schumacher directed that?
Oh, wait, and Colin Farrell was in Tigerland, which was directed by Joel Schumacher.
Who directed Phantom of the Opera. Yes.
And Phone Booth.
And Phone Booth. And Tigerland. Good. So, my personal site is lifeversusfilm.com. I'm just going to plow on regardless. You can hear me once a month over on the Lambcast, hosting movie trivia on Lampity, which Mark and I will both be on again soon. Possibly facing each other, we'll see.
Because I won, baby!
And listen to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast where we're talking about Deep Blue Sea adjacent films. Recent episodes include The Sea Beast, and by the time this comes out, maybe Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Ooh.
Directed by Rennie Harlin. It's coming up soon. So head over there and find that. And I haven't done it yet. 13 cons in the air in this chapter. Still 13 cons. Still in the air. But they are landing. They are heading down. Not going to be in the air for much longer. And we might get more than 13 coming up soon. Who knows? And I just realised that Joey, before the show, you said you had your own intro name. We didn't ask we didn't give you a chance to say what it was.
Oh, The Relentless. I was going to say The Relentless.
Oh, Joey, I can't even say it. The Relentless Lewandowski. I like it. Fantastic. So, as for Con Air, Chapter 12, thank you very much to our guest, Joey the Relentless Lewandowski.
Goodbye. I was relentless until the very end, and then I relented.
You relented. I have been Jake Lewis.
And I'm Mark Hoffmeyer, but I have something interesting. In The Lost Boys, which was directed by Joel Schumacher.
God damn it.
Kiefer Sutherland is in The Lost Boys, and then he went to be in Time to Kill, which was also directed by Joel Schumacher. And Kiefer Sutherland is the voice in Phone Booth, which was directed by Joel Schumacher.
Come back next week, or the bunny gets it.
Sigh.
Anara!